Hello, welcome to another Tweedy Outdoors video. I'm not sure if this is going to be a particularly exciting one. I'm just out for an afternoon bimble not far outside of London. I just had a few hours to spare on what is, I suppose, in a way the first Monday of my unemployment, retirement, whatever you want to call it. I think I'm quite retired yet, but so yes, it's quite an exciting prospect waking up this morning and not dreading having to work for the day, just thinking, well, I can do whatever I want, but haven't been able to make very grand plans. Sort of busy-ish this morning and just a few hours free, still sort of family commitments and stuff. So I had a quick look at the map, tried to figure out where I could get to in the relatively short time I had available. Thought Higham in Kent on the Thames Estuary, not far from Gravesend, which is only 30-something minutes out of St Pancras. I thought that might be interesting. Go and have a wander around the marshes here, the Thames Estuary. We may even, just if we're lucky, be able to find the site of a barrow. So not exactly going to be the sort of most ambitious or exciting video, like I say, just a sort of afternoon stroll. But you know, if you're in the mood for something low-key, then keep watching. This is the Church of St Mary at Higham. It's a little way out of the village proper. This is where the station is. Another very pretty cottage there. You'd think you're in Devon, not in Kent on the Thames Estuary. This would be a great spot for the avid forager. There are blackberries there, sloe slash damson slash bulluses. I can never figure out which is which. And over here, hallberries. So, you know, between the three of those, you could make quite an interesting fruit jelly type concoction, I imagine. I always find these level crossings for footpaths a bit unnerving. Unfortunately, this isn't the high-speed line here, it's just this single track line. A very careful look. So you can see, hopefully, I'm going to point the lump over there. I believe that is Barrow Hill. I mean, it's hardly a very high altitude projection from the marshes, but it is, you know, somewhat prominent. I think that part of the hill is probably a natural feature, and originally there was a barrow atop that. Of course, any sense of atavism somewhat dented here by the series of electricity pylons and the what is that, the container port over there in the distance, and the quarry. Signs of modernity are quite hard to ignore here, but let's go take a look, because you know, sometimes you still get these little corners of antiquity that can still be interesting despite their banal modern surroundings. Isn't really an obvious path. There's a sort of track down there. I can't really see an obvious path that leads up the barrow, but it's all open access land, which is great. So just wander up this way, I suppose. Now, in terms of the actual man-made part of the earthwork, there looks to be a sort of small depression there in the middle of what I believe to possibly be a more natural feature, and this may be where some sort of barrow originally sat. Hole in the middle there with the stinging nettles. The site was excavated in 1880 by Mr. E.L. Arnold, and he found here a stone cyst, which is something I would more normally associate with Dartmoor. I didn't realise that was a feature of Bronze Age burial sites like this. This is so probably Bronze Age, we believe, and stone cyst inside a skeleton, or the partial remains of a skeleton, and interestingly a necklace of beads. The Porosphaera Beads ended up at the Natural History Museum, and hopefully you've got a photo that I can put on screen to show you what they look like. Herbert Toms, writing about this particular find, said that he'd observed in Sussex, nearby Sussex, and possibly even parts of Kent, even into the 20th century, the early 20th century, there were ladies at the seashore selling these Porosphaera bead necklaces as good luck charms. So there may be some sort of lingering ancient tradition there of some kind of folklore associated with this particular kind of bead. Like I say, sorry about the wind noise. It's a bit hard today to get a sense of atavism, ancient magic. There's something like a container ship what appears to be cruising along through the fields over there. It is, of course, in fact, in the estuary. And so given all this modernity we're surrounded by with the shipping and the pylons and the quarrying, it's very hard to get a sense of antiquity and atavism here, but you can at least get an idea of how this little hillock is nicely elevated with respect to its surroundings. It commands rather impressively long-range views for such a small projection. You can see why this site was chosen by some luminary in the Bronze Age as their final place of rest. Just follow the path to the edge of the marshes, I suppose, where we meet the estuary slash sea, I guess, at this point. There's this kind of embankment. I don't know if this partly works as some sort of sea defence. Beyond there, behold the bleak expanse of the Thames Estuary. And then I believe that sort of purpley border there is denoting the coastal margin, which is another form of open access land. So this beyond the embankment here, I think that's all fair game. Let's have a quick explore down there. I don't want to get too close to the water, obviously, because it's likely a bit marshy or muddy. What do we have here? I think that is marsh samphire. Wow, I had no idea that grew in the Thames Estuary. Amazing. And I think this is possibly sea purslane, although it's maybe past its best now. I think it's probably better to pick when it's a bit brighter green. But wow, two, if I'm right, which I may well not be, don't take my word for it, but two wild coastal edibles within a few meters of each other. I'm bowled over by that marsh samphire. It's essentially growing like grass here. These it's slightly boggy a bit, so I don't know if you can hear the squelch. Sorry, squashing a bit of the marsh samphire there. There is obviously an abundance of it. And look, a beach. A beach in the Thames Estuary. How inviting. Is that possibly an old shipwreck there? Shall I throw a stone into the sea for the YouTubes? There we go, here's me throwing a stone into the sea. You happy? Okay, well I could continue in that direction and walk to Cliff Fort, which is a now disused artillery fort. A bit windy now, I hope you can hear me. A now disused artillery fort from the 1860s, Wikipedia tells me. But I think I've kind of had my fill for today, really. Wasn't a particularly ambitious walk, just wanted to see a little bit of the marshes, see the estuary, perhaps see that Barrow back there. Done all of that, bonus things including marsh samphire and sea purslane, which is quite exciting to see in the wild. So instead, I'm just going to follow this embankment in the wind and now the rain. I didn't bring a raincoat, but never mind. Back to Gravesend, and I will end my walk there. So, you know, perhaps there might be some more interesting things to see along the way. Let's see. Seanmead Fort here, which I would have instinctively assumed is World War II era, but was in fact like Cliff Fort back there, built in the 1860s, and I think was then subsequently reused during World War II. Another sort of artillery fort, now heavily covered in graffiti. Take a quick peek through to the other side. Yeah, not that far from Gravesend now. This path is getting a little bit samey, but you know, it's okay. It's haven't passed another person at all on my walk today, which is nice. I suppose it is a Monday afternoon and probably the rest of the world have jobs to do and so on, but yeah, it's been if nothing else, very peaceful. It's all gone a bit industrial now. Believe it or not, this is the route of the Thames coast path at this point. I'm sure you'll agree, one of the loveliest stretches of that great national trail. I mean, wow, it's spellbinding. I promise you that is the route of the Thames path. Look how narrow that is. Another stretch along here which has all the charm of a prison exercise yard, albeit not quite as clean and tidy. Still a bit grim. Who ordered the pathos? Wow. There's some very helpful signs seem to have just run out of this padlock shut fence over a sort of lock, a bridge over the lock. I assume I can just walk round somehow. I find this a tiny bit unnerving, if I'm honest. Managed to get back to the seafront, which is reassuring after that slightly sketchy, slightly, I don't know, had a sort of air of Dickensian squalor to it, that industrial estate slash docks area back there. Bit weird, you know, seeing one of those old oil drums with a fire in it. I thought that only happened in the movies. It's a rather fine set of ceramic tiles on the what is this, the Terrace Tavern? Interesting. It looks like it's an off license today rather than a pub. It's unusual. Right, it's going to have to be a rather hasty ending. I've made it back to Gravesend station. Hope some of that was interesting. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.